Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim, and our guest today is Matthew. So Matthew, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do.
So my name is Matthew Mirosevich. I live in Sydney, Australia, and I'm a chef that owns a catering company.
Awesome. So I'm just curious about your background. I know we chatted about it previously, but kind of how did you get into this space, into being a chef and running this catering company?
Yeah, look, when I was younger, I actually started as a chef when I was 16, just to get out of school. I wasn't a massive fan of school, didn't really mingle with everyone, I guess, how most people would at a young age. And yeah, I found a passion for chefing straight away. I guess the kitchen's an environment where if you work as hard as you can, you get given a certain level of respect and you fit into this family-like culture. So that for me it was quite compelling. And then after that, I did about 5 years of chefing through high-end restaurants, and I won a scholarship to go work in London. So like a prestigious scholarship, go get a 10 grand check, go to London, work for this high-end restaurant. And I was on the plane on March 2020 and COVID hit, and they actually kicked us off the plane and sent us home. So that kind of changed the trajectory of where I was going with my chefing career, and ended up starting to cater. So catering people through lockdown for like dinners just to earn extra money. And I found a passion for the business side of it. Something that kind of ignited the same level of interest that cooking once had. And I pursued that for the next 4 years, which is where we're at now. And now we're catering for groups like Ferrari, Porsche. We're doing weddings of 200-300 covers. We've got a team of about 8 staff. And yeah, everything's going pretty good at the moment.
So in terms of catering, right, because obviously there's many caterers out there in this space. So, what do you kind of focus on in terms of the quality of food, or even like the type of food, and even just how you differentiate yourself from your competition?
So we're very customer focused. I think we're playing a game that is it's on a subscription. You don't have great retention, right? You're not going to get recurring payments. So ensuring that everyone you do cater for leaves feeling great. They've had a good time. They've had a good customer experience. The service, the food, everything from start to finish was smooth. It was seamless, and it was enjoyable. So that when they do need another event, or when someone is talking to them, like that word of mouth is strong, because otherwise you end up having this business where you're just chasing the next sale. So for us, our main focus is on the customer. It is on the experience, so that once we get someone in our network, they're going to bring other people in for us. Like that's the main focus as a business. And it also just happens to be like naturally the most important thing from a customer's perspective as well.
So in terms of like serving your customers, obviously there's many different cuisines that you can, cater for. Do you have certain specialties, or is it really just more of like someone say, hey, like, I want to, bring in Chinese food, and you guys can make that? Or I guess, like, what does that process look like?
We're not narrow in the sense of what we cook, but we are quite firm in what our menus offer. So we're very, I would say, French-based, Mediterranean, modern Australian, just because fine dining background. All of my chefs who you'll hear walking around in the background, they're all got fine dining backgrounds. So we've got very French roots to us, because that's what we've learned in culinary school. Beyond that, very modern Australian, because we are in Australia, we're catering to the masses, but also we don't steer too far away from what we do. So we're very strong. I think Alex Hormozy probably nailed this into me the most through his podcast, is niching down and not getting carried away. So like if someone wants Chinese, even if they're throwing big money, or if they want a different cuisine is what we typically do, we don't really steer too far outside of it, what we offer, just for consistency. Like our team are trained in our menus. We do change our menus every few months, but like what they know is what they're good at. And that again ties back to the customer, the food, the experience, right? Knowing we can execute on it every time and not getting carried away. So for the most part, French, modern Australian, and we don't really steer too far from that. We do have different menu services. So we have like canapes, which is going to be roaming, cocktails, bartending, stuff like that. That's more of like your dealership, showroom, car release type of event. And then we have like the degustation, which is your fancy 3 to 8 courses, and then buffet menus as well, which is more of a family gathering. But they all stay within that area of French, modern Australian.
That's awesome. And then I guess in terms of like the breakdown of, who you serve, right? Like, is it mostly corporate? Is it weddings? Is there a certain breakdown? Because you did mention some companies, but I don't know if that's most of your business or if you're also doing other types of, family events, things like that.
Yeah, so we cater a pretty even split of private and corporate events. It does depend on the time of the year. So through, I would say, September to February, it's very corporate based. They've all got their staff parties, they've got their pre-tax dollars, they're looking to have their events. And then obviously everyone in corporate settings go on holidays for 6 weeks. So everyone's rushing in before and rushing in afterwards. Like you get two big hits. Through February to August is definitely more private. It's going to be the people that you catered for last year through Christmas. Again, with that coming back for the second time, that retention is going to be people just looking for last minute family gatherings that don't want to cook themselves. Maybe the party got bigger than they expected it to. It's gone from 8 people to 25. Now they're like, dang, let's bring some caterers in. And honestly, a lot of mums that just don't want to do the family cooking anymore. So we do that as well. But yeah, I would say it's a pretty even split. I think 60% of our top line does come from corporate, sorry, because their events are typically larger. They spend more because they're doing events for 60 to 200 guests, whereas private, we do more volume, but smaller.
That makes sense. So in terms of like your role, right? I mean, obviously you're running this company, but you can't be everywhere at once. So do you kind of focus like on like the largest event? Like, do you actually go to all the events nowadays? Like, how do you kind of, make sure the quality is, of the highest standard while keeping this like a scalable business?
It's funny. I've gone through a lot of transition periods, right? So obviously at the start, it was just like Maddie's on the phone, Maddie's doing emails, I'm at all the events. Like that was the starting period. But recently, I've been quite fortunate to hire more staff and kind of relinquish that level of work, I guess. So being able to step back from a lot of events and send like my chefs in is something that's been probably over the past year, something that we've been able to do. And in regards to how I was able to do that, it's just hiring the best staff that I can. I think for the guy that is walking around the background right now, he's my sous chef, Vinny. I had 147 applications for a chef role as a sous chef, and we picked him out of those 147. So he's got Michelin star background. He's been cooking for 10 years longer than I have. So like he's got experience, and for me, I've paid him accordingly, and then we've bridged that gap of trust through just doing events together. So for me, I can't really control and oversee every single event. Like I can't be there. Customers are always typically too nice to tell you if something does go wrong. So there is a level of trust to it, because whatever happens on site, you're not going to see it and you're probably not going to hear about it. So the most control I can have over it is making sure they've done the menu before. I've given them all the information they need because I do the booking process, and then make sure I have good staff that I trust and pay well. So they have no reason to want to leave. They have no reason to want to show up hungover. Like they always show up sharp, ready to work. And that's the most control I can have over making sure the event gets done properly.
So what is your focus? Are you more focused on sales, just, working with your clients directly?
I enjoy the acquisition process, marketing and sales. Personally, that's what really stimulates me. It gets me out of bed. I enjoy looking at the analytics. I enjoy improving Google Ads and split testing new headlines on Meta. Like that for me it's really interesting. I do 100% of the booking process. So onboarding, getting them in, transacting money, etc., and then taking all that information and making it as simple and digestible as possible to hand it off to my sous chef, and then he hands it down to the staff from there. So that's kind of the process. That's my main focus at the moment. And then when I need to do events, I'll just jump in and help out as well as a chef. But that's pretty much how it looks day to day for me. It's wake up, outbound, just trying to get new corporate clients, trying to get affiliates, reaching out to wedding vendors, reaching out to big Airbnb companies, and just trying to affiliate myself with them with referral policies. And then throughout the day, it's just managing customers, new and old, and those conversations.
So in terms of like, growing this business, because you mentioned a few different acquisition channels. I mean, obviously one is kind of doing cold outreach yourself. One is you're talking about Meta, Google. Like what has been like the best channel for you in terms of actually scaling this thing?
For direct return, Google Ads are always the best because it's intent based. So provided you continually optimize Google Ads and have a decent spend to outspend competitors, it does perform the best because catering is very intent based. It's hard to run disruptive marketing on like Meta and then someone go, oh, caterer, let's have an event because I've seen this caterer. Like it's not quite how that works.
Right.
You're not selling a widget, right? So but it's good for brand exposure. So a lot of what we're doing at the moment is reallocating money from Google Ads to Meta and going for more brand exposure, because we have a TV show coming out in about 6 weeks on a big platform called Binge. That's all about the catering company. We filmed it last year. So that's going to be eight episodes, one season of billion dollar playground is the name of it. So right now it's just exposure so that people can connect the TV show to us. We can bump prices and go for more premium product.
So what is your vision? Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. So I guess in terms of like your vision, right? Because, you're scaling up, that you're doing ads, you're on a show now, you're really like in this position to grow even more. Like, do you want to be nationwide across Australia? Like, where do you really see your company going?
Short term, I just want to, like, 1 to 2 years, build a team here, make it strong, get systems in place. I would like to have a catering company that our clients can rely on. So more of an emotion, right? When someone says we have Catered by Matt tonight, everyone knows the food's going to be good and they're going to be taken care of. Like, that's the response I want people to have to the brand name. As far as a team goes, I want to make sure that we have a team underneath this that are all highly trained or skilled, and they're all just keen to wake up and slay the day every day. Like that for me, having a positive culture, having a group of people who want to work and want to be, competitively great is quite important to me. And I think that's very important to the customers. Although they may not see nor think about it, they'll feel it on the event day when the staff turn up ready to rock and roll. So short term, just building a brand, building systems, having a strong team. And long term, I want to see how far we can push this thing. Nationwide, I haven't considered yet, to be honest, because you would really need to have different HQs and different operating teams. And as far as my ability as a leader right now is not that strong. So building strength and trust within myself that I can lead a team nationwide would be the first step over the next 2 years. And also building a team here that's strong enough I can step away from.
Right. No, yeah, I think that's a really good strategy. And then it seems to me like the way that you're looking at growth is in a very strategic way, right? Because you're not just looking to grow at all costs. You want to make sure that the quality is there. And especially kind of what you mentioned earlier, right? When you hired the chef, the sous chef, you interviewed almost 150 people, right? And you picked this person. So you're really focused on quality and you're not looking to just scale at all costs. You want to make sure that as you grow, that the chefs and the folks that are working with you are of the highest caliber.
Correct. Yeah. It's important, right? So spending the extra 2 weeks to find the person who's going to take the next 5 years of work off your hands, like, it's hard to find a bigger arbitrage move, right? Like, that is probably the most valuable thing you can do as a leader. In my very limited experience in business, like, that is, in my opinion, what has seen the most rewarding move. What has been the most rewarding move is investing in good staff. Because I've had other companies that I got to, my first company, I got to 16 staff. There was a grab and go food business, which is still operating today, but I took an exit from it a couple of years ago. And my biggest problem was staff. But since here, I've only hired and paid. Like, you have to pay for good staff. The staff problems just, they vanish really quickly, right? When people want to come to work and they have the experience, it gives me so much time back. So that for me has just been this positive feedback loop of hire good staff, get rewarded for it, hire goods. Like, that's something I want to continue down that line.
For sure, yeah.
I think it funnels into everything. You can charge higher prices, you can have more trust, you can scale quicker, you can do more interesting and exciting things day to day. And I think that all boils down to hiring the right people.
For sure. And then in terms of like the size of your events, right? Because you were saying that it kind of varies, some private events are smaller. What's like the largest events that you've done and how, large can you really like support at this time? Because obviously I'm sure you probably, there's probably certain limits for how many people you can cater for at one time.
It does depend on the menu chosen. So for something like canapes, finger foods, we can do anything up to about 400 guests. Because you really only need about 6 chefs in the kitchen for that. Or a degustation menu, we can, like plated, something you would get in a restaurant, we can do up to about 200 guests. And we could probably do more, but you're going to sacrifice quality, and I'm going to be bringing in hired talent to assist. So for now, we just stay very much, if I can't do it, I'll just send that event to one of my local caterers who I know can do it. And I typically get some type of like referral kickback from them. So I still see some degree, I get some good affiliation with the customer, because I'm like, look, I can't do this, but this catering company, they're going to be perfect for you. I'm going to CC you in. So I get that connection, right? I've been nice to a customer. I've given them the best interaction I can, but I can't cater for you. Plus the catering company, that if they convert it, they'll probably send me some referral fee, right? So that's a win-win there. And then as far as buffets go, about 200 guests as well. We don't really push too far past that. And as far as dollar value goes, like probably around a $30,000 or $40,000 event is like absolute max.
Right.
Our average spend on an event is around 4.5 to 5.5K.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it got smart. And I think that you're doing things in the right way. So obviously you've been in business for some time. You had a different company, which you exited. Now you're doing this. If you could go back in time to before you got started, what is the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew?
The asset you're building is yourself and not the business. I think that just trying to grow for growth's sake and drive revenue, it's not impossibly hard to do. You can find ways to do that. But I think growing in a way that you are growing from a place of knowledge, right? Reading, learning, implementing, and then having those assets, those skills for the next business, for the next growth curve, etc., is probably the most important thing, and not getting too carried away in the weekly revenue, right? Seeing it on a longer time horizon. So I'd say remembering that the asset you're building is yourself and looking on a larger time horizon is probably the biggest thing. Because for myself, my biggest thing is impatience. I just want to do more. Like every day, I'm like, why can't we do it now? Like that for me, that's the constant battle in my head. And I would say that's something I would tell myself. But I wouldn't change anything about learning. I think learning through books and learning through bootstrapping companies, I think that is very valuable, because you need to be resourceful and not just pile resources into it. I think the biggest thing that would have killed my growth if I did have money at the start, because I would have just thrown money at it and blamed everything for not working. But starting from zero and having to learn from the ground up makes controlling a team and a business much easier in the long run.
I agree 100%. Yeah, I mean, I think that most, startups fail because I think that people often, have money and they don't really know what they're doing. And I think it's when you're bootstrapped, your back is against the wall, you have no choice. You're either going to be very successful or you're going to amount to zero. You're never going to make any money. So it puts you in a very good position. And it helps you understand things as you scale. It's like, okay, where and how do I invest my money in the future? Because I mean, like as you said, right, every dollar counts. It's super important, and it's super important to be disciplined, which is hard to be, especially when you're young and you want to scale. But as you said, you're focusing on quality, you're focusing on having a good reputation, and that's super important.
Yeah, I think that just to touch back on that, another real positive of bootstrapping is you need to at least attempt to find the constraint, because you don't have the money to try three different changes at once. It's like, I've got this much money and we're going to have to figure out what the constraint is and put the money there. And if it doesn't work, it probably wasn't a constraint. So like, it's really cutthroat when you have no money in the bank, because if it doesn't work, well, it didn't work, right? But like if you had more resources, you could just try something else. You're not going to learn that lesson as quickly. So exactly. I think like it does help, like when you try something with the limited money that you have and it doesn't work, or it does work, you get fed the right answer as opposed to just having more resources to throw. So 100%. I think that's
fail fast and figure it out.
Exactly. Yeah. Just stack those fails up.
Exactly. Awesome. So if somebody watching this wanted to reach out to you and wanted to, get some catering from you guys, do you mind sharing your website or social media? I guess best ways to get in contact.
Yeah, I mean, you can pretty much type Catered by Matt, Instagram, Facebook, Google, and we will pop up. I don't think there's too many Catered by Matts out there, but Instagram just Catered_by_Matt. Same with Facebook, and then Google is just that's the domain, www.cateredbymatt.
So, well, Matthew, thanks so much for your time today.
No, I appreciate your time, and thank you for calling.
Of course.